future that's guaranteed because everybody with money wants to go there. One is Hong Kong, the other one's Miami. So we're talking about a future global city. Miami is no longer the crown jewel of Florida. It is no longer the crown jewel of the Southeast. Miami is the crossroad trading center for commerce. And if you think that airport is making unbelievable strides, you ain't seen nothing. That's just the beginning. We're now past 40 million passengers a year and 2 million tons of international cargo in airplanes, not in ships, in airplanes. So here's the crown jewel of the bay. And we've got to do something to save it. Now I want to make a recommendation, if I may. I'm sure we took a poll here of the just under 100 people that are here. I guarantee you 95% of you are against casinos. And that's me. But casinos, yeah. But I don't mean casinos, gambling casinos. I mean what they call, what's the new name for them? Destination, thank you. Destination gaming resorts. Okay. We don't call them casinos anymore, please. This is destination gaming resources. Okay. A resort.
So you won't notice.
Yeah. Okay, now guess what? They are taking polls and polls, and I can't tell you who sent them to me, but I got the polls today. Well, everybody in Miami-Dade County is for one of those things. It's unbelievable. And so if it goes to the voters, it's going to pass here, just like marijuana is going to pass. I mean, I don't care what you do or say or oppose, it's going to go 80%. And if you spend $10 million in the next couple of weeks and $20 million in the following week, you may get it from 80% down to 70%, but it's going to pass. Well, the problem with this casino issue is that it requires, they got a constitutional change, you need 60% vote. But guess what? Here's where it's at tonight. It's in the governor's hands.
Uh-oh.
It's not in the legislature's hands. No, let me tell you what's going to happen. See, the governor doesn't want to face this issue because he wants to get reelected. So it ain't going to happen. Nothing's going to happen this year. But the moment that gubernatorial election is over, no matter who wins, you can bet your bottom dollar that we're going to have destination gaming, whatever, resorts. A destination gaming resort. So, you're going to have a super big battle. And who are the players? Who are the players? I mean, we don't have to wait 3 or 4 years to tell you. I can tell you what's going to happen right now. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. One, destination resort
Genting.
is coming, and that means Genting is there. And Mr. Adelson is right there next to him, and he's not going to let it happen. And Mr. Adelson now has finally figured out, he must, I don't know the man, but he's got to be brilliant. You know what he figured out? That Miami Beach is not going to vote for a convention center, and it's going to go smaller and smaller and smaller, if at all. And what's going to happen is that we are now 27th in conventions in America, and it doesn't make any sense, and somebody's going to put up a convention center. So Mr. Adelson is now saying, well, wait a moment, you give me that casino license, I'll put up a convention center. Okay? So why don't we tell Mr. Adelson and Mr. Trump and Mr. Genting that when that happens, this is one of the prices that has to be paid. Not this part, the whole string of pearls with the diamond brooch, which is this parcel right here. Now, Greg, I don't want to hug this too long, but
However,
yeah, but I got something else to tell you.
Take us back to Parcel B.
You want to go to Parcel B? Okay. But can we get the photographs back to where it shows where the PAM Museum is now? You got the little thing that
It's in the upper right corner, which is kind of blanked out.
No, it's not. That's
Plus on the other side.
Does that change? Does that change?
I can't do that.
I would like to talk about Parcel B.
Okay,
Yeah.
Is Parcel B the
Can you
one?
make your point quickly and
Well, which is Parcel B?
It's right up.
No, it's
under
not.
all
It's
that-
not. Parcel B is not in any of those photos.
It is, it's the spaghetti.
No, it's not. Oh yeah, it's there. It's right there. But he wants. No, he wants. But he wants.
It's under the spaghetti.
I'll tell you, Commissioner, one of the best commissioners that we have, Miami wants to speak, and I'm gonna sit down, but then you let me come back and talk a little bit about what I think is gonna happen while you're here, because I want you to listen to what I'm gonna say.
I love you too. Good evening, everybody. I just want to give you an update on Parcel B. Some months ago, I came out with some legislation directing the mayor to come up with other alternatives for the Cuban Museum, which that report is due back in a few days. When that report comes back, and I don't know what the mayor is going to say, but when it comes back, our attorneys have already written up some legislation for a passive park on Parcel B, sponsored by myself. We're sitting here, and I see all the different ideas that's coming up, but sometimes if you come to the commissioners, let us know what you're doing, you would have known all this, and everybody would have been informed. Now that is what I'm coming with. If you want to know what you can do, because I'm sure my friend Maurice said it's about the money. Who said it was about the money? It is about the money. So when my legislation comes out, I'm going to need you all to come out there and support me with it. This is what you can do, because someone else said, if you demand something, we're going to stand up and we're going to listen and we're going to take note on it. So when I have to fight for the passive park, I'm going to need my residents, my business owners, those of you who want the passive park to come out there and back me. And that's what I'm asking. And all of this is going to happen within the next couple of months. So we'll be able to let you know exactly what's going on. And when we bring that, that's what I'm asking you for, your assistance.
if I can ask you quickly, what have you heard from your constituents about what they want?
That's why I'm sponsoring the passive park, because that is what I have heard.
How do you define that?
A passive park can be anything. Right now, I just want the name passive park on it because I want to keep it open. I think I've heard good ideas. I've heard good things. That is the public's land. The county manages it, and that's the way I see it. So it's what the public wants on that piece of property. And right now it's to keep it open. So if I put down passive park can mean a lot. It can be just an open space with grass. It can be an open space with benches and grass. It can be just some of the things I've heard up here so far. And that's why it's good to come in and speak with your commissioners so that we can know exactly what you want, so that that can be something that we push for you and represent you on.
Commissioner, I have a related question, and that is that process, in other words, design. In other words, does it simply go into the planning department, the parks department design, or is there a way that
I think right now it needs to start with me,
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah.
so that I can call them the parks and tell them what the residents want. But that's how you get started. If you just go to parks, it can be put on the back burner because you don't have your representatives representing you. And that's the way it goes. And my good friend Maurice will tell you, when it comes down to politics, and it is politics, you have to go the political way.
Absolutely.
If you go to staff, it can go into a draw. And that's probably what's happening.
I guess part of what I'm coming from is that Liz and I and others in the room, I think, were part of the process for Bicentennial Park. So there were dozens and dozens of people involved in trying to design it. We had a big charrette, some of you may remember, 350 people or
I
something
think
like
that's
that.
a city park, correct?
It's a city park, it is different. But there was wide public involvement, and I think it made a difference. It stopped the baseball stadium from going there, and it was an open public process. So I guess I'm wondering, is there some way, even for the county, to create some kind of a public process where there are a lot of people involved?
Yeah, we can do that.
You're absolutely.
Why
I
not?
think, yeah.
Why not?
There's
And I'm here, and that's something I think that we should come in and talk about. That's why I'm here. I wanted to hear what the people had to say. I saw a hand. Peter?
Commissioner Edmondson, thank you very much for proposing this legislation. What is the next step? Will this have to go to a committee, one of the subcommittees of the county?
It would go through committee and then to the BCC.
And can you or your office keep us all informed, keep track of the form so that we can show
I would
up?
love to. Akeem or Tracy, can you get us information? And yes, we will keep
Thank
it
you very
informed.
much.
Okay, and that's what I'm asking of you, is for your help and your assistance when I bring it to you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we've seen some plans here, but we are a major port city. That is our heritage. And right now we have no place for a tall ship parade to come in and show the ships if we essentially cut off the slips and carve it up in some way, put bridges across the major deep draft resources we have. The Coast Guard Commission that essentially put large bollards in the park so you could tie up major ships there. So when we do have a ship parade or something like that, we can actually welcome them to the port. We used to do it in the port of Miami, but since 9/11, we're not allowed.
And the port is under high security. So
That's high security, and I understand.
I don't think that can happen, not on the port.
So, but we have this spot right now where we can tie ships up, which is a public park, and it has big bollards designed to tie ships up with. I hope we don't compromise this thing and make it unavailable so we have no place to tie up ships.
Well, that's something I would have to speak to staff about, because I need to get a full understanding. Because you're talking about parades and a lot of civilians going into the port, and I don't think that's gonna happen. I really don't.
Other questions or comments from the audience to the commissioner or others? Yes, sir.
I'm a resident of downtown. I live at 900 Biscayne. I work at 900 Biscayne, and I'm a pedestrian that walks the streets. One of the things I never hear anybody talk about is where parking is going. The Performing Arts Center was built without adequate parking. The museums were built with inadequate parking. Now we're talking about another attraction and all these pearls connecting. But the people who actually live there and have to deal with trying to navigate, there's no safe bicycle paths on Biscayne Boulevard. There's real user problems for the people who call this their neighborhood. And I see none of that addressed in any of this plan, none. And it keeps going, one project after the other, and these
I agree. As a matter of fact, I was in a meeting with the World Center people, and they're talking about assisting with parking for this area. So, but that's talks right
That's
now.
the new mall that's going.
Yes, well, it's in the planning process, so I really don't want to go too deep into that, because it's all in a planning process. What they're doing today can change tomorrow. So that's just one of the things that they're talking about.
Yeah, Everardo, I have one suggestion, or maybe it has already been done, is to send out a questionnaire to all the unit owners of all the new buildings, from the Zip Opera House all the way to City, all the new buildings, as to what the people want. And put in there different choices.
You know what I would prefer to do? That's to hear what the people have to say. Send out some kind of flyer to them all, requesting a meeting and for them to be present.
Or maybe you can hold a meeting like this in each of the condos, great room or community room, and invite the residents to come down and state their opinion.
That's a a good
and
idea.
needs.
I'll call a meeting, but I'll probably call it at the Adrian Arch or one of the big venues that's in the area.
And I think there's so much that could be done, and you brought up the African American slaves. I mean, until the last two governors came in, there was a lot of funding for the arts. I'm with the Center for Emerging Art, and we got funded for international portraiture, for concert performances. For 2 years, I got funded and built an African American slave garden in Miami Beach because the Botanical Garden gave me an area and worked with the students to preserve the heritage and legacy of the African Americans. And something like that could also go into it. And I'd be 100% back you.
How many of you, just out of curiosity, live or new residents living downtown along the waterfront? Just curious. Okay. Any other questions? And your concerns as residents of that area? Yeah.
You got to stay.
Yes, Commissioner, I am a constituent of yours and I do support everything you just said. I'm also an economist, and putting a garage on that site is a dumb idea. Then much dumber, it's dumb and dumber, is putting a soccer stadium on the port where, as Mayor Ferret pointed out, the land is so scarce in a very competitive environment. To use it for something other than port activity seems ridiculous.
Okay, we're on Parcel B.
However, did you notice that the parking that was proposed was incorporated into the park, where it was just elevated and parking was created underneath? And it's a win-win situation.
It's like the museum. The museum has the same.
Other questions?
Museum,
Thank you. I would like to go back to Parcel B, since that's what the meeting's about. And I have heard unbelievably wonderful things about Bicentennial Park, the museum. People are saying to me that have never been involved in this before how wonderful it is, and that they love going there. It's a great outing, and I would like to see us still keep the park atmosphere. Also, I see a lot more people biking, kayaking, boating. This would be a great place for access for bikers, for kayaking, and keep it for the people that want to be outside. Let's make it for outside people. Thank you.
I think that's it for me.
Commissioner, last round of development that we had, developers pay impact fees to mitigate the impact on the neighborhood, and all of us in downtown pretty much did not see any of that money spent in our direct neighborhoods. Is there any way that we can ensure that with this new round of development that the money doesn't get spent way outside down in South Dade?
With impact fees, it goes by district. It does not, and this was just explained to me here lately. When you pay the impact fees, when I guess the developer pays the impact fees, those fees are spent within a certain area. Doesn't necessarily have to be spent right in front of where it's being built.
Exactly.
And I tried on that, but I did try on that, but that's the way it's set up, and that's the policy.
The city made I'm not to speak, but the city made the entire city an impact zone. So that way, impact fees can be spent anywhere in the city. You know, it could be a little disingenuous. District 2 has the majority of the large development, and to spend it all within District 2 wouldn't be quite right either. So, yes, some more of it should stay downtown. I'll agree with that. But you have to wrangle with the 4 other commissioners and the allocation of the dollars.
Yeah, I manage 900 Biscayne Bay, and I just wanted to make sure that whatever goes there reflects the population. We're getting a lot of families with young children. They need a playground, they need a place to play. Museum Park is beautiful, but it's not really, it's not gonna have a playground, it's not gonna have a place where kids can ride bikes and run around, fly kites, whatever, because it's got a lot of trees. Beautiful. We need dog parks. We are pet friendly. All the buildings that exist now are pet friendly. And we have so many dogs. And there's about another 6 buildings in the Miami World. And I don't know how many dogs we're going to have, and we don't want them pooping all over Museum Park. So to have part of that parcel be dedicated to a dog park would be very, very important.
And I think that what we need and that will be something that I think I need to add to this particular legislation before we put it out, is we'll put passive park, that way it's left open for open spaces, and then we'll have a charrette with everyone coming in. But I moved into this area a year ago from El Patel, and I'm in one of the condos. So I'm taking a big interest now.
Oh, that's
and what occurs here.
Welcome to the
It's called sell the house, downsize, and get a condo.
But what we want to make sure is that it's something that people are going to use, because if it stays empty, then, it would be a tragedy. So, have enough of the public interest where they will go, and they will keep it beautiful. And hopefully maybe the Bayfront Park Post can even incorporate it into their maintenance, because they're going to be taking care of Museum Park, they're going to be securing Museum Park, they've got the Bayfront Park, they've got Bayside. It's
a little bit more complicated, because you got some city parks here, which you have to go to the city for. You got the city rep, Commissioner Sarnoff's office back there, and I'm county with Parcel B.
I understand.
So I can only discuss really Parcel B.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you.
Perhaps your legislation could be both passive and active.
Well, I can also just say open space. And that can include everything, and then when the charrette comes out together, then
yeah, at least we preserve it.
Then the people can decide what they want. And I think the attorneys tried to make me say earlier, open space. I refused it and said passive park, but I'll change it back to open space. And that way you all can decide.
Any final questions? Yes, Ruth.
I grew up in Bayfront Park. I hate to tell you how old I am, but I'm older than everybody here. And I even played in the band show. There's a quality of nostalgia about Bayfront that isn't there anymore. It needs people. It needs to have a feeling that no matter what time of day or night, I long to go to that park. Now when is this going to happen with the new one? Will that have particular incentive like the old Bayfront Park?
One of the things I think you need is connectivity. In other words, from Bayfront Park or even Bayside across to Parcel B and then across the Bicentennial Park. Yeah, that's
Will
what's.
have different characters, you mean?
Yeah, so how should I put it? Being in the business and Tim knows this going back 12 years or whatever. This has been in the works for a long time.
Way before I got here.
In June of 2004, there was a meeting at the Bayfront Park Management Trust where we discussed these very topics. And I have shared with the commissioner's staff the report that was generated as a result of that meeting nearly 10 years ago today. So I think right now there is a momentum towards this that didn't exist back then. On a regular basis, I walk from my office in Bayfront Park to Museum Park to check on the construction progress. And I take the Bay Walk through the back of Parcel B. The light there, you know how they talk about the Golden Gate in San Francisco? We have like this silvery light in that area that is magical as a result of what Commissioner Foray mentioned. The water in Biscayne Bay changes the nature of things, and it is particularly true in that location. I think when Museum Park is completed, which should be sometime in May or not,
we should just begin to traverse the walkway from Museum Park to the mouth of the Miami River and wait for the county to catch up to us.
Greg, this is
I do it now, and so do the homeless guys from this town.
Shining wall, it was
And they have the best view, and I say we take it from them for $60.
What Tim was talking about also is that you can go that whole distance now. There are a few pieces in between. There's the Miami Herald piece, which will happen eventually. And you have, like Audrey was saying, you have the county properties, you have state properties, you have private properties, you have city properties. So we're slowly bridging all those. And it took a long time just to get under the FDOT bridge for Galapagos Bridge, because it was FDOT. FDOT wouldn't let you go under. You get to Miami Avenue Bridge, that's the county. The county had it fenced off for years, would not let you under it. For years, the county wouldn't let you go under the Metro Rail, where the Metro Rail stations are. They've finally taken those gates down. So it is opening up. If you haven't walked it in a long time, you should. Because it is opening up considerably. And where you can't, in most places, you can go out to the road and then come back in. But it is slowly but surely opening up. And the county just gave us access to the south side of the river, under Metro Rail, to build a baywalk, which the city's going to build on county property. They gave us permission to do it finally. So the connections are happening, folks. You need to go see it sometime. It's a slow process. It's a hard process, especially dealing with the private sector, because they don't want people crossing their property in many instances, but it's happening. And I think Liz is shaking her head yes, because she knows it's happening too. It's just to keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. That push is happening now, and it is happening.
Does that include the Epic?
Epic?
The sales office?
The Epic sales office, don't have, you're
go there.
asking the chief of staff a much higher pay grade issue. But Epic sales office, they need to get their second tower and get rid of their office. I'll agree with you on that. But how quickly they get rid of their sales office, I don't know.
Okay. Yes.
I'm just here for Parcel B.
Regarding Parcel B, if you go down there now, there's currently a fence up. But if you look at the land there, the Florida Inland Navigational District has redone the seawall, and really, I see no reason why that fence is there. If you took the fence down, that property could be used tomorrow.
That's right.
It has great access. There's vegetation, and I really see, it's something that we can do immediately. Is have staff look at that question of providing access to the public today as we figure out what we want to do with the site going forward. Because to the point, to the comment about walking from Bayfront Park to Museum Park, I mean, that seawall is beautiful seawall, and the only people that are using it are a couple of fellas that are sleeping there. But it's a beautiful walkway, and the only restriction is that you've got a fence that's been put up on a temporary basis restricting public access.
It's been there for about 3 years.
I know. Yeah.
A couple final questions, and then Maurice, you wanted to say one more? Yes, a second.
Just one other thing that I'd like to suggest is that employees for security patrolling the area, because we don't want what happened in Bayside. They built an artificial beach, the beautiful Vermont beach chair, which is every day some homeless are sleeping in it, and it's filled with it. And what happened at Bicentennial Park, I came to Miami in 1957, as a baby. And the homeless took over the Bicentennial Park, because that used to be beautiful and walkable. People were not afraid to go down there, and then some riots came. So, and
Yes, Grace.
Madam Commissioner, yes, you said that you were going to now change it from passive park that you've requested to open space. From the standpoint of the zoning for the county, what is the difference? Because
The city
zoning.
it's the same zoning, but why
The
is
city
it
would
from one
also
to
have to participate because they're the ones that will have to give
city manager.
Because what we want to.
That's why I said it's a lot more complicated than we know.
Yeah, because we don't want to see any buildings there. We want to see a park.
Well, that's what open space is, that's why I'm going to put open space, and then we'll have some legislation for a charrette to come together. I would rather that the people tell me exactly what they want, and that's the only way we can get it. It's got to be something that the people put forth in a charrette.
Yeah, I think the charrette is extremely important, just like I want your president.
Okay, any other final questions on Bicentennial Park? As I know Maurice wants to say another comment too. Thank you.
Okay, and, there's another problem, and Greg, I want you to listen to this. Commissioners, before you leave, I just want you to listen to this. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, the Department of Transportation will be meeting at the Arts Center, 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and what they're going to come up with, in my opinion, is a monstrosity. And let me tell you what it is. They're putting a Chinese wall. I hope nobody gets offended at the wording. The Chinese wall is going to divide the Genting property from the park and the museums. There's no way for you to get across there. You're going to have to go all the way down to the bay to cross over. And then they're going to they were supposed to put a bridge. Wait to see the bridge. It is a monstrosity because to save money, it is a non-structural bridge, so it's decoration. I mean, that's going to be the joke of the design community in the world. That's going to make the front page of the New York Times. So that's going to happen tomorrow at 9 a.m. And those of you that want to prevent a solid earth wall dividing the Arts Center from the parks, you better pay attention to what's going on.
Where was that?
At the Arts Center at 9 a.m. It's a public hearing, but I guarantee you there won't be 10 people there. Right?
We didn't know about it.
So what you, no, explain to you what it is. You explain what it is. It's an east-west wall that's going to be built, right?
How would you do? Look, this governor in this state is about to spend $800 million to redesign 395.
Yeah.
The redesign calls for an earth wall from the bay to the Arts Center.
Yeah.
Now, that's what's there now. And if they're going to spend that kind of money, isn't it time for them to let air through there and people be able to walk? And that becomes part of the park system?
Yeah.
So tomorrow at 9 a.m., if you have the energy to do it, at the Arts Center. Those of you that live there, it's just a short walk.
Any final comments from the panel? Or Javier?
Stay on top of it. If you're really passionate about this issue, don't just come to this meeting, get some things off your chest, and forget about it. You have to stay on it or it won't happen. My experience.
Look forward to good results.
Thank you so much for coming in. I have to actually agree with Mr. Betancourt. It's exactly what we need. Exactly. Thank you for coming.
I want to thank you all for coming too. Appreciate it.